What's up, Internet? Jeff Gretler here, Head Brand Ambassador Spiceworks. Thank you again for joining us in this episode of the 20th Anniversary Podcast Series. Today, I got to talk to Francis Sullivan. He's the former CTO and co-founder of Spiceworks, the man who took a bold vision of software and community and turned it into reality for millions of IT professionals that led to the community we all know and love today. It's a great conversation, so let's get into the bites and bits of Francis' legacy right now. There he is.
How's it going?
The man. Good to see you, Francis.
Good to see you too, Joe.
Can you believe it's been 20 years since the
No,
founding?
that's amazing.
It doesn't feel like that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like that.
What do you remember about those early days back in 2006? I think it was Jay said it was around January 2006. What do you remember about that?
Yeah, I had left the company before, and I had worked with Scott and Jay and Greg, and they were going to go off and do a consumer thing. So, maybe a month before that, I didn't even know I was going to be working with them. And then they came back with an IT idea, and I joined. And then when we first started, we worked in the Hill Partners office to start. There was a bunch of construction people around us. So like with road plans and all this other stuff, and we were in their attic, and we go down and we'd have coffee with like all their workers or Dick Anderson, and they were there. And that was fun. And then they found us a space really close to there on Mountain Ridge.
This
Yeah,
is
right
Mountain
across.
Ridge, right?
Yeah, and that's where it really got interesting. We got started adding people, and yeah,
That's when it got fun. I remember when I first started in 2011, the SSID was still West MR, and I asked
yeah,
what did MR stand for? And then that Mountain Ridge made the
yeah.
transfer over.
Yeah, that's because no one wanted to change their Wi-Fi
Right,
settings.
exactly.
Yeah,
So, we talked to Scott a lot about around the brand and stuff, but I want to get a little bit more kind of like into the technical portion with you. So thinking back into like those first 6 months, right? To you, was it very much, how surprised were you how fast it kind of took off?
I wasn't surprised that we could write the software because we had done similar things in previous companies. And really, to Brez, we were excited by the newer technologies. We were using enterprise Java beans, and it was taking forever to do anything at our previous company.
Right.
And Ruby on Rails came out, and we saw that. And then Python was just coming out. And so I had Tabrez, it was just him and I looking at this. I had him look at Rails, and I looked at Python. And I was super excited for Python. And then he came back the next day with a big thing working. And I was like, man, if you're that excited about this, I'm all in. And yeah, and we went down the Ruby on Rails, and that was the best move we could ever make because it just allowed us to go over 10 times faster than our previous company. So we could just do things that were not possible before. It's like today an LLM could do things that you couldn't do a month ago.
Right.
And now, but back then it was like an order of magnitude faster than working with Java.
That's awesome. Yeah, because Scott was telling a little bit of a story, about the four of you, and I think Tabrez was there as well, sitting around, and Greg had kind of spilled out like everything you couldn't do, and then why you couldn't do it, and then Scott remembers looking to you and saying, "What can you do?" Especially around the agent versus the agentless, right? Greg was just kind of like in this mode, like, wait a minute, we're not going to be able to do this without an agent, and here's the reason why. And he said you were kind of sitting back, listening and taking it all in, but he can tell you were computing and trying to figure it out. What do you remember about the agent versus agentless dilemma?
Yeah, the problem was we were really dead set on it's a good thought for anything. Do we add value when you clicked, I want to use this product? Do we add value within 5 minutes? And was it oh, look at the value here. Wow, I got to keep using this.
Right.
Because if you can get them hooked right away, then you have time to do the rest of it. So we were diligent about how do we add value right away. And I think that discussion was, hey, I don't even have, I I need to scan the network, but I don't have any credentials. So how do I show some progress? And yeah, I came up with ways to show like here's your devices in your network because you could see the MAC addresses. Oh, that's an Apple, that's a Dell, that's a that's a printer,
Yeah.
and showing a picture of that was better than not, like wow, how did you do that?
Right.
Yeah. And Greg would jump all the way. How do we get every last piece of information off the machine? And I'm like, hey, if we just show them value, hey, you want more, we can install this agent. That was the installing the agent was the problem.
I that definitely matches Greg's intensity, right? It's just like,
Yeah,
how do we get every single thing? I can totally see
yeah.
Greg doing that, right? How much could we lift? Is basically
And I was just trying to think, can we get something that's useful that they'll be impressed with? And if we can do that, then we'll basically live to fight another live to fight the agent problem down the road.
yeah. No, and it
Yeah,
worked. I mean, I started 5 years later after that, and I remember, and I was just all in. That was in my Windows sysadmin era of my career, and I remember being just blown away of all the information we were able to gather that first time,
yeah,
because I'd only like I had heard about Spiceworks, and I had a lot of peers that were using it, but then when it come in the office and that first login, and I saw everything you can grab when you first logged into that legacy app, it was like if anything was just like almost like wow, we got all of this. Now what do we do with all of it, right?
yeah. So yeah, there was a lot of tricks to get that. Like Windows had a built-in management system, and once I could bridge that, I could pull all the information. Unix has one of those built in. Uh, True story. Like 40 years ago, I worked on the initial version of that, and then like SNMP, like a printer, you could scrape the whole thing. So there was just a plethora of information. You just couldn't get to it before, and once we could connect to it, once we're on your network and connect to it, yeah, it was really wow, how did you do that?
Right.
Yeah.
That was the magic in there, and yeah, and then we were off and running. So let's talk a little bit about the early again, or about the early days in that first 6 months. What was the first, what, or I guess, what's the most memorable technical ghost in the machine that you remember that you're like, did you have like a uh-oh moment, like maybe this is not going to work? Is there anything you can remember around that time?
Uh, I don't think so. We had our first alpha install was just down the. So we had talked to Austin Ventures and got some of the people they invested in to kick the tires early so we can get feedback. And the first one we went, we wrote this. I wrote this program to basically look at the name server and find names that aren't legit or have the wrong IP address. And it was down at what was the name of that? Motion Computers. It was right down on 360
Oh
there.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we show up, and in a few minutes, we put our beta build on a CD-ROM, installed it, and like 10 minutes later, here's a DNS report, and it flagged hundreds of things. And the IT guy's like, "This is BS. This is not right. None of this is here." And yeah, Tabrez and I are looking at each other. Oh, we must have messed something up. And then I just spent a few minutes and I showed him, hey, look up this address. It's wrong. It should be this address. And he was blown away. And he had a contractor in charge of that. And he picked up the phone right in front of us and called us and says, what the hell are you doing? There's all these addresses are wrong. No wonder none of this computer stuff works. Yeah. The, the, yeah, he wasn't expiring the DNS cache, right? But yeah, and we found that for him. But we were there for a few minutes thinking, oh my gosh, we really messed up here. And it turned out no, it was right, and his network was messed up.
That's almost just, yeah, that it almost worked too well that you almost had
Yeah,
that seed of doubt, like, wait, did this really not work?
yeah, no, that's
That he
because
couldn't believe it.
we were begging, borrowing, and stealing networks to try these things on because there's, everyone has a different network, and that was, Greg especially was very worried that we couldn't support every combination.
Yeah. Oh man,
Yeah.
but we did, right? We definitely
Yeah,
did. Let's get a little bit or into the orange architecture, if you will, right? Because you were, how much did you get back? How much involved were you with the UI back then? Like, as far as that usability, like, do you remember any like
yeah.
nightmares?
I was involved with it. I didn't implement it, but I had gave feedback when we were. relentlessly making it simpler, showing value with 5 minutes, making it look. And Scott was like, we call him the pixelator. He was right down to the pixel. And the night before we released, Tabrez and I stayed up till 3 in the morning. He had 100 items that needed to be tweaked, and we knocked them off one by one, like move this over 3 pixels, add a space here, because he knew, and he was right, that they would take screenshots of that, and like we were on the cover of like magazines, and there's the picture, and it looks like nothing you've ever seen on the web before.
That's amazing. Wait, was that why that conference room was called the Pixelator? Was it because of
Yeah,
Scott?
yeah, that's why. Because and Tabrez and I were at 3 in the morning. We're going down the list, going, and we got a CSS book going. How do we change this? Yeah,
That's
yeah, that was
awesome.
something else.
Because I was
Yeah,
telling them, we were in the watch party in the community, and I remember telling people, like, I remember I had a view of that Pixelator room from my desk, and I remember Scott getting up, and then he'd go sit down, then he'd get up there, and then he'd point again, then he'd go up, sit down, and he kept going
yeah.
up and down. I was like, well, how intimately was he involved with it? Very.
Oh, to the pixel. Yeah, and yeah. We actually named the initial conference rooms after our first. Like, so Motion was one of the names of the conference
Yes,
rooms.
I do remember that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
That's how
so
they got the name.
That
Yeah.
that's so awesome. So let's just talk about the scale, right? So when the community started shifting, from a few hundred users to hundreds of thousands users, what do you remember the first uh, part of the code base that was really stress tested at that point when the scale started happening really fast?
Well, so the Ruby on Rails stack at that, it was just beta when we started with it. It came out at 1.0 when we released. So it was very, very fragile. And running the community with thousands of people on it at the same time was very tricky. But we basically did a bunch of tricks. We had a lot of really good programmers,
Yeah.
and we figured out how to scale it. And we spent years just ahead of the curve trying to get in front of the usage because it grew so fast. So like scaling to 100 users, scaling to 1,000, scaling to 100,000 users. That was all. Yeah, we were just laying the track in front of the train as we were driving.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I was thinking in my mind. I was thinking, so you were literally surfing the tidal wave as it was coming, and we were surfing that wave.
Yeah, we had Kevin Shell figured out when he started right away. He added the second set of servers called the front end server, and it was more of a data plane than the UI plane.
Okay.
And quickly we figured out we couldn't handle those both on the same server, so we bifurcated them. And once we did that, that allowed the community to have relatively snappy uh, feedback without being penalized by all the data coming back and forth.
Right.
And yeah, that was a great job by Kevin to figure that out.
Oh yeah. And speaking of Kevin, we talked a little bit about that, right? How the feature request list kind of was the birth of the community, which is hit, I think, actually it was 2 days ago. That hit 18 years, right? Because that didn't start right when the company started. It's like you launched the app, and then a couple of years
Well,
later, the community officially launched.
well, I think we might have launched it a couple years, but it was built in from day one.
Yeah, that was already in
And
there.
so we had interesting thought. We were like, it'd be great if you're an IT person, if you're in the community, if you could just ask a question and get an answer. So the very, very first release of the agent app, inventory app, had ask a question in it, and if anyone was else online, they could answer it. There just wasn't enough because you need like 1,000 people online for that to work. If there's 10 people, no one's going to answer it.
Right.
So that feature ended up being a great feature, but it was 2 years later before it was actually
Before it rolled.
useful because
Okay.
there wasn't enough people online to actually answer the questions.
But it was ready to go. We just needed to build up to
Yeah,
the
it was
audience.
in the very first. We actually hid it for a while until we got more users, but we
That's
knew that would be useful. But you had to have, it's a chicken and egg problem. You have to have enough people there.
Well, good job on the
Yeah.
foresight of that, because 20 years later, they're still asking and answering questions.
Well, and then, I mean, just think of all the IT things we've done in the past. There's always something I don't know the answer to. Yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah. I was
yeah,
in there yesterday, and I was just like, I wanted to dust off my IT skills, and I jumped in and answered a question on how to modify a MAC address for a Raspberry Pi that somebody had just put and they were troubleshooting. And like now I do a lot of the social work, but I was just like, oh, I want to get my hands a little bit into
Yeah,
IT work
that's
again.
right.
But yeah, 20
Yeah.
years later, that's still happening.
Well, yeah, it's very useful.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that. Our community, our spice heads, they're very vocal, as you know. I mean, they're passionate because they love the brand and they have a seat at the table when it comes to the company. Over the years, how did you balance that? Your technical roadmap with the very large feature request list. How did you balance that?
Because initially it was quite easy because they would get on and vote up, 20 things, and we pick off the top 10 of them and implement them, and a few weeks later they would have them. So they were excited and they would get more feedback. But as more and more users came, more and more, we got overrun with feature requests. So we couldn't build them all
Yeah.
because we also had our technical roadmap, like you said. So we set up a council with some of our lead guys, lead spice heads. I don't remember the name of them. Sorry, I'm
Oh,
trying to
yes,
remember.
the spicy peppers.
Yeah, spicy peppers,
Yeah.
and they helped nurture. These are the most important things. And when we did that was really good because we got immediate feedback from people we trusted, and they led us down a path that like these are the things we need, and we started adding them, and that worked really well. And then so then we had when we did a release, we would do it would be like 30% bug fixes, like people would have a bug and we fix it. 35% feature requests and 35% roadmap, and we kept on that. We always mixed in all three in every release. I can remember every time we sit down with the management team and we'd lay out which bucket is that in? Do we have enough of that bucket? Is it balanced enough? And we just keep going on it. That was like the pie ingredients, and we just kept plugging away at
Kept
it.
plugging
Just
away.
yeah,
That's so awesome. It's funny you say it, like along those lines. When I first started, of course, I wanted to get video. I was always pretty passionate in video with my wrestling and television background. I was like, we should start doing video. And some of the early videos we did were Babin and I just basically doing an AMA of just having people to say, what about this? When's this coming? When are you fixing that? Now, thinking back, that was pretty brave for Babin and the other great developers to go online live and say, we can do this. We're going to do that.
yeah, and problem solving in real time. But
Yeah.
he knew we would always have appetite for doing feature requests because we knew that's what drove usage.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you're talking a little bit about how you built in the ask a question feature, right? Which gets into, I mean, social media. I mean, this is like the tail end of MySpace, the early days of like Facebook. But as you were building a piece of software, right? A technology, an app. How surprised were you how much the social aspect of that app took off in parity with the app itself?
Well, I mean, the if you think about all the technical things we built, I mean, we were proud of them, but we from day one thought the community together is going to be, the sum is going to be better than the part. So it was more like, can we build enough technology to keep them engaged? But the engagement is what we really cared about.
Yeah.
So I would say almost from day one, we knew the community was important, and we knew if we could grow that. So, so we released it. We have unbelievable usage. It was like 2,300 people installed it the first day. Some ridiculous. Uh, Greg saying there's no way we can support all these things. And then we looked at the number of page views, and it's like if you if you look at that and say Google was paying like some ridiculously low amount to run Google ads, like this thing's never going to pay for itself. We were dejected, and I walked out thinking, but what if we could go two orders of magnitude higher? What would happen then? And it's like, yeah, it pencils out. So yeah, we just need to keep driving and get that viral community. And once we did that, then it pencils out. And then we sold our old ads too, so that helped. But yeah, we had to. It was like even with staggering first day viral usage, it wasn't even close to being enough. We had to grow it
Oh
because
man.
I think after the first month we were at 30,000 installs. So
Which is still after 1 month, that's still
yeah, and then by Christmas we were over 100,000. That was just a few months later. Yeah,
when did you
yeah.
have that moment, that you knew that you're kind of like you caught a dragon by the tail thing? Was it the everyone talks about the tattoo, right? The Spiceworks logo tattoo. When did you realize like, wow, this is
Yeah, that
really
was that. I mean, that was like, wow, that's a serious. But like for me, when we that first day we got 2,300 installs, I'm like, we did something right here because we were hoping just to get 100. And like 2,300, that's a big, like our servers were just like, we were watching the traffic and we were paying for every byte going back and forth. And we're just like, whoa, look at all this usage. Yeah. And yeah, so to me, I was pumped when I saw that. And then as it grew over the month, just more and more pumped. But that's early days. That was just like the tip of the iceberg because you go out a year and we're still staggeringly growing. Like you're saying, in 2 years out, the community crosses like 100,000 people, some ridiculous number.
yeah.
So we were like we'd pinch ourselves every week. We go, oh my God. And then like, what can we do to grow it more? We're always saying, what can we do to simplify it, grow it more, put the actual features they want, show value immediately. Those were our guiding, and yeah, it was amazing times. I mean, the engineers and the management team all worked really hard because we were on a mission and we knew we were making a difference. So there's nothing better as a software engineer when you're building something that people use.
I would love, the filmmaker and Mario's here too, listening. The filmmaker and me, I would love that point of just like having the camera in the room when you guys start to see the uptick and like all the different locations. Like I think remember Greg telling the story of how it's like, wait, we just hit the Australia time zone and they're online and the downloads have started there and like and you're actually seeing it happen per time zone.
Yeah, because we released it like late at night and it's already taken off. And it's like, what? It's not even, yeah. We were going to wait for, East Coast time, but it was already going.
It was already off and running. That's
Yeah.
incredible. So let's jump a little bit into like the culture, which obviously I think is like the in Austin especially, it really is the gold standard of that Spiceworks culture that that you guys help cultivate. Scott talked a little bit about the slices with Scott, right? And that's kind of talking to everybody. But as we know, the IT and the developers, they're a little bit more introverted, that type of stuff. What were some of the things that you did in the engineering pit to keep your version of keeping that culture going?
Well, we did, we got this from other companies. We did a Friday, basically demo and beer. So you have a beer and a snack, and all the engineers got to get in front of the company and demo the latest thing they were working on.
Yeah.
So we had, sometimes people would show like a console with stuff going by, and no one would know it, but it was like, is that good? Yeah, that's good. But it got the engineers front and center with everybody, so they were, people could talk to them, and then ideas came out of that. So they saw something, said, "But could you do this?" And real time ideas and learning and feedback is amazing
Yeah.
when you're trying to make progress. But like, if I go back to the culture, we met about this before we even started working on day one and said, we're going to make sure we hire good people. And one way we're going to do that is all the founders are going to hire, all the founders are going to be in the hiring process for anyone we hire. So at the beginning, all four founders had to say yes before you could get in. So that was like, like Jay was the least technical, but you can think he's talking to a technical person. He's still trying to figure out if I can communicate with this person and will this person work hard and all the things. And that looking from four different perspectives, we passed on a lot of really good people, but we also set the bar so high that when they started hiring people, they remembered that.
Yeah.
But I think I left at 13 years or so, or 13 or 14, I don't remember. But I think I counted 1,400 people I interviewed.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, because I was doing sales, marketing, everything, and we relaxed it eventually to three founders and then two founders, and eventually we grew so big you couldn't do it. But that was really important. And setting, and then we cared about ownership. So were you a person that would take ownership, given something to do? Would you take ownership and see it through? Because we had worked with too many people that would say, "Oh, that's someone else's problem." It's like, no, this is our problem. We're going to solve it. Are you that type? So just think of all those engineers you remember who would they talk to you and find a problem, and instead of walking away from it, they would double down, maybe even stay up all night if they had to.
Yeah. And
Like
I,
Robert Rasmussen, he would stay up. Oh, we have a server problem.
oh
Come
yeah.
back the next morning, I got it fixed. Yeah,
Yeah. I remember those days. It really did feel like that there was somebody in the office at all times. It
yeah.
really did
No, but
feel
it
that.
wasn't because they just wanted to show they work hard. It's because they knew that if they did it, it would make a difference.
Yeah. No, yeah, it didn't feel stressful that it was that
Yeah.
happening because I remember that interview process and I remember the balance of, you and Greg getting a little bit more into the technical and then Scott just almost wanting to just shoot the breeze to see what type of person you are and Jay, checking a lot of boxes too. Like I remember, and I think it's happens a lot now in the interview process that you get from these council, but for you guys, it really did feel something felt different. Like there was something at the end of this that was making it worth it, not just like you guys checking a box and like, okay, they can do this. Like you really were seeing the type of person like, look, this person knows what they're doing, but they are somebody I would like to work with and we can show them
Yeah.
the rest and fill in
If
the
you're
gap.
here late at night and you're working with this person, are you going to be happy or are you going to be mad? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was a relief. You had some more horror stories from past companies, like because it was a very casual style of management, but it still felt professional at the same time. Like you didn't feel like it never felt like a frat house, but it also felt very casual. But
Yeah.
that was a relief to
Yeah.
you.
We wanted to hire people that took ownership and that you trusted. So you didn't have to get on them all the time because you knew that given the information, they would do the right thing. And people, like you said, if you're there late or early and with them, you would like to sit down and talk to them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just people you get along with instead of, you know, we've all worked with that, like that genius in the past is such an asshat that you like I just don't want to do anything with this person. Yeah. It's like, yeah, we just want to pass on those people because that's not going to have the right culture.
No, no, it's right. I mean, I think back to a story with Chris Bushover, my former boss, the former director of IT, and he had stayed up all night working on something, and he went in there and he went with Greg, and it's like, I worked on this all night. I'm doing this. Is it okay if I take a nap on the couch right there? And Greg was like, sure, absolutely do it. And I was just like, what other company would you be like? I worked on this all night. Are you okay if I go take a nap on the couch right now? And Greg was totally fine with it. And to me, it
Yeah.
was kind of new at the time. I was like, wow, this is a way different thing, way different something that I've ever experienced before.
Yeah. Yeah. And we, we cherish making a difference for our users. So that's the biggest thing. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's why when the idea of Spiceworks came up and we got everyone together, I mean, I think that's what made it so good for because every engineer would come out of that so pumped to the next releases, right?
Oh,
Because they
yeah.
talked to people and learned so much, and they didn't mail it in. They went and they went and talked to solved real problems and talked to real people. Said if you could do this and not that, yeah, that was so valuable. But it just pumped everyone up instead of like, oh my God, that was hard. It's like, oh my God, look at the difference we're making.
And it does. And we had, Jen Slasky, she did the closing keynote at Spice World this year, and everybody still felt that pumped up, even, whether it's our audience of
Yeah.
the people who worked there had the aha moment of like, wow, this is incredible. What were some of your fond memories of Spice World? Since you were a big part of it, like the founders were like celebrities of this event where people taking pictures with you and asking you questions and sitting down. What were some of your fond memories of Spice World?
Well, I mean, I just remember talking about it and thinking it was going to be hard. And we get there after you get ready for it and just being so pumped up by the adrenaline of these people really caring what you say, really wanting help on something important to them to run their business. Like people are running cancer centers and, really important companies and they need us to help them. And it
Yeah.
just, yeah, I just remember, I mean, being exhausted a week later, but thinking at the time, this is the best. Someone's using my product, and I'm able to make changes to make a difference what they're doing. That is just, but like getting up and speaking in front of them, like I don't like doing that public speaking things, but it was easy because they were hanging on every word. It wasn't like they were
Right.
critical. Like they want to learn and do what's right, and that just made it so. It's like having a casual conversation instead of, oh my God,
Right.
everyone's going to come back at me for everything I said.
No, and I think it was a testament because, especially when the four of you got this started and then getting to Brez and off and running, it really was going to an audience that was struggling in the sense of like one IT pro on staff, one or two. They were already outnumbered. And you were
Yeah.
basically adding, like, airdropping relief to these very understaffed and overworked professionals that turned out to be very grateful for what you were doing.
So our second alpha customer, I can't remember their name, but we showed up. And the receptionist, we said we were there to see the IT guy. And I can remember the lady picking up the phone and says, there's someone here to see you. Like nobody ever comes and helps this guy. It was just incredulous that someone actually come to the office to talk to the IT person.
That sounds about that. That definitely
Yeah.
tracks. Oh man. So let's just talk about a little bit more like a modern day. So like, if you were the CTO of like a brand new Spiceworks type company today, would you lean heavy into the community led tool, or does the AI driven landscape flavor add would mean you would use a different type of spice?
So that's funny because I was thinking about this the other day. There's some new things happening that would make what we did much easier. Like, for example, they're building LLMs right into your browser. So when you go to a website, you'll have a little, you can think of R2D2, you'll be driving the ship, but R2D2 is behind you, turning the knobs for you so you don't have to do all the grudgery.
Right.
And I was thinking about like, how would we build Spiceworks with that? That's a great question. I do think like getting the data would be much easier because you could just ask the LLM for it
Right.
and translate into to something useful would be easy. And a lot of problems would just be solved because the LLM will just handle it and you didn't have to do anything, right?
Yeah.
So that would be fantastic for the IT people because most of the drudgery is gone and only the interesting problems are left.
Right.
And I still think, regardless, you're going to want to talk to somebody to solve a problem and just, LLM can help you. They're good at it, but they're always sure of themselves and they're not always right too.
Right. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong being overly confident, but not necessarily correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
That-
Just delete the whole drive. There you
Right.
go.
That'll fix the problem, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it would have changed like a 2006 era Spiceworks, if you had access to that LLM back then. Like, how do you think that would have changed the trajectory of the company?
Well, it's really hard to get distribution these days. And we were the first big company to say, hey, we're not going to charge you for it, just take it for free. And like the IT, a lot of the IT people that we were working with were strapped for money. So free was a great price.
Yes.
But everyone's kind of copied that free idea. So one of the things that really made it successful was distribution and getting this free IT management thing. No one had ever heard of it because people were charging over $20,000 for the same thing.
Right.
And we're saying, here, just take this, and here's an inventory of your network. And a week later, here's an updated inventory of your network, and that was stuff you just couldn't do.
Yeah. I was at RSA not too long ago, and it was pretty incredible, like walking from booth to booth and seeing a lot of Spiceworks influence built into a lot of these apps. I think we talk about how Spiceworks changed the culture of work in Austin, but I think it's even a bigger scale than we realize because I was like, wow, that looks like our desktop app, or wow, that looks like how we used to do inventory. It really
Because
did
if
influence.
when we started, if you brought up the competing apps, they looked hideous. They were
Yeah.
like a
Oh, it was
terrible
awful.
gadget. Yeah,
It was
and they were
awful.
like, yeah, and like that was another reason why having something that looked pretty when you it just takes the cognitive load off of us. Like I got to do all that to, oh, look how pretty, look at my network. Yeah,
I do remember that, and I remember testing a lot of those apps too. And you're like, "Oh, this is awful."
it's awful. Yeah. So, I mean, it really makes a difference. And that was because when Scott worked with Steve Jobs, he knew how important it was. So that just rubbed off on him and it
Yeah,
rubbed off on us too. Yeah.
yeah. Well, that. benefited all of us. So
Yeah.
I kind of liken you as like an artist, right? In the sense like you'd build a lot of stuff. And I think sometimes an artist, when they're building something, they'll notice one little thing that nobody else will notice, but you notice it because you worked on it. Is there anything that you can think back, like any piece of tech debt or some kind of feature that you wish that you had the technology to fix, or now that hindsight, is there something that you go back and like, oh, I wish I could have changed that?
I'm sure. I mean, there's so many things when you look at them later, you're like, oh, I did that wrong. But I don't know. I'm not really hung up on that as much as um, going back to the core principles. Are we adding value, and is it easy to see that we added value? And those guiding principles, like we would do something and we would put it in front of like, man, that's not easy. We got to scrap that. We had so many times we had to go back to the drawing board and we implemented something, but it just didn't pass the bar of ease of use. And it was disappointing because you spent a lot of time doing it, but then yeah, you're right. This is too hard. And yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow, but the right thing to do when you realize it and don't put it in front of people before it gets too complicated.
Right.
So I think we implemented a lot of good things, and sometimes it was not to our standards, disappointing. You had to pull it back because you want to help people, but you also wanted it to be to our standard.
Well, I talked about this with Scott too. I mean, we definitely created a Spiceworks culture where you made it a safe place to be wrong sometimes, right? Because we
Yeah.
know sometimes we're trying to do stuff, the fail fast, fail cheap, try to get it, to a hungry audience that wants that help. So I think it always felt safe that you could say, okay, maybe that's not the way to do that. So that was a credit to you guys to make do that, because other companies you would be terrified to say I made a mistake.
Oh yeah. I mean, we had a go no go last second, and we had to stop several times when we found something.
Yeah,
Sometimes it was just for an hour, sometimes it was a day, but or sometimes we had to just pull a feature because it wasn't ready.
yeah, but still, I have a lot of good memories. I remember first starting and those, those push days and everybody ordering food and kind of there was almost like an excitement, like a big game. Like, are you okay? We ready to do this? What's some of the like? Is there any Spiceworks lore that you remember from the early days of those offices? Maybe not even Mountain Ridge. Maybe the Ladera Bend, right? That was when we like. I think I was employee number 99 at the time. Like, is there any Spiceworks lore that you remember that you kind of think fondly of?
I'm not sure this fits what you're asking, but the thing I was really proud of in the dev side, and it did help, going back to an earlier question about how did you how did you build the culture, is developers love to build things, and we had the thing called Spice Wars
Oh
in
yeah,
dev. We would get a week every 6 months, build whatever you want, and present it to the founders. And I mean, we built some crazy things, and some of those things that were amazing, we took them and put them in the product. So it's not like
yeah.
it
Oh,
was
I
wasted
remember
time,
that.
but it gave everyone the experience of being their own founder for a week and coming up, with the team and coming up with something like a hackathon, but it had to be something we could ship, right? And doing that with dev, I think that would help developers. Like if you go to a big company, you get very slowly grow your career. When you came to Spiceworks, you were just immersed in it, and a couple of years later, you were already a senior engineer because you had learned so much.
I had so much fun of those Spice Wars,
Yeah.
and it's kind of interesting. Again, we were talking about a lot. The technical folks would be a little bit more introverted, but when they had the Spice Wars event where they showed up, they turned into salespeople, right? I
Right.
remember, like you said, Help Desk 2.0 was born from that hackathon where you're just like, they were like, hey, step right up, come see this. They were turning into carnival barkers all of a sudden.
Yeah, that was like seeing our employees grow. That's one of my fondest memories. I mean, the product was amazing and the growth was amazing, but the people that we were in line with every day, growing so fast, and I mean, so many have gone up to do their VPs and run other companies. It's
Yeah,
just amazing.
yeah,
I was
no,
just, but I couldn't. I was so proud of our staff. Yeah, my
yeah.
wife's like, stop talking about all those people. Yeah,
I do
uh,
remember. I fondly remember you. Because obviously you're very tall, and I
yeah,
remember you walking down the dev side, and you always did have a smile or a very proud look on your face. And now I know what you were thinking as you were looking at everybody. It was just like,
yeah,
wow, look what everything has kind of become. What you've kind of nurtured, right? And that's a credit to you guys.
yeah. It was, yeah, it's just so heartening to see people grow because um, yeah,
Yeah, great memories, and I love seeing the clusters on LinkedIn of the group of Spice workers that are still working together. Like that
yeah,
culture meant so much to them that they started other companies together. There's very few where it's just one or two still working together. They go they go in clusters.
yeah. That's good.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. What about, just a couple more questions here, Francis, before we wrap up. What does it feel like to talk about 20 years later? The Spicehead culture is still thriving. It's still a very passionate audience. Does that surprise you at all that, 20 years later, even, the apps have changed, help desk has changed, but the community is still there and still going strong?
I didn't realize it was 20 years. I mean, and if you would ask me, I would have figured it out, but I don't think like that, but I do know, like every once in a while, I go get an answer on the Spiceworks community for other things. So, for IT related things, I mean, but, so I know it's useful.
Yeah.
Um, and I know connecting people with like problems and getting an answer, just like nurturing a employee, I know that's an important thing in the world. And helping people solve problems is just I don't know, it just makes me feel good. And
Yeah.
it's amazing when you get to feel good about what you're doing. It's not like you're building a rocket to kill people or,
Right.
what you're doing is making a difference and helping people. That's an amazing thing.
Oh, and again, a testament to you guys. I'm still here because of the stuff that you guys taught me. You guys really did teach me that, and I feel like I'm almost keeping the flame going and passing that forward because what you guys did made a difference in the world, in people's lives, personal lives, and technology lives. So that's what keeps me going. I was just talking about this with Sean yesterday. It was just like no matter when it gets hard, those we have that foundation that you guys built that we stand on. Like it's still worth it.
Yeah, and when I got on to see you, I just brought a smile to my face thinking of all the things we did
Oh yeah, no, it
in the
was
past.
great.
So, yeah.
I mean, I remember you guys, the dev side to celebrate, and we rented a theater to go see the Avengers, or we'd go do, we had our Top Golf tournament. We did a lot of stuff as a team that really
Oh,
does
oh my
still
goodness, yeah.
still sticks with me on there. So thank you guys for breaking that. So Francis, I do, a lot of these questions did come from the community, and our community, so we're going to end it with a lightning round because of course we
All
got
right,
to do that.
let's
Just the
go.
one question because that's what our community does. So this one was a little bit more developer based. So tabs or spaces?
I use spaces.
Spaces, okay. This is a dangerous one. Star Trek or Star Wars?
I'm a, I like them both because I'm a technical guy, but I would say if I had, because I just watched Andor, I think Star Wars is slightly winning now.
Okay, okay. Andor's
Yeah.
great. Dark mode or light mode?
I have both on my screen. Depends on the time of day. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, this is one that's just more of a morbid curiosity. What's your favorite color?
Green.
Green, okay, because everyone's just like looking for that the birth of everyone's trying to find the birth of the orange.
Yeah.
So three
Well, I mean,
more.
I remember Jay came up with it, and when Greg and I saw it, we said, "This is Halloween. We can't do this." But Jay picked right. So
Good for Jay. Have to give him
yeah.
credit for that next week. All right. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Especially if you cut it in half and put it in two pieces of bread. Yeah.
All right. Perfect.
Yeah.
Do you prefer your peanut butter crunchy or smooth?
Crunchy.
Crunchy. All right. And this is the one for Sean Dahlberg. Is it pronounced GIF or is it pronounced GIF?
Mm. I'd say both, so that's
But
interesting. Probably gift.
play
Gift.
it safe. Cool, Francis. Well, I appreciate it. Is there anything that you're working on right now? Like, I know you and Tabrez are always still. I love talking to you guys because I know you're still working to get. And Tabrez is going to be part of this interview series too. So, is there
Oh,
anything?
good. Because
Yeah.
we're hot and heavy on the AI frontier with what you can do with it, and anything we're working on. It's just things that weren't possible even 2 months ago are now suddenly possible.
Yeah,
So that's what's so exciting. Yeah.
it is. Yeah, and I love keeping up with you guys and see what you're working on. So
Yeah.
thank again, but again, Francis, thank you so much for doing everything that you've done for Spiceworks over the years. And I know I'm glad you look at it fondly because we look at you fondly for creating this platform that changed our lives. So thank you for being part of that.
Man, I just, yeah, so happy to speak with you today. I
Yes.
can't believe it's been 20 years. I have to go
Yes.
write down something somewhere here.
Well, I'm going to tell you to save a spot in your calendar. This year is Spice World 19, but I already told Scott reserve a spot for Spice World 20th anniversary, which is going to be in 2027. We're going to have some surprises, and I'd love to have you guys there.
Okay, that sounds great.
All right, Francis. Well, I appreciate your time today. Thanks so much, man. Great catching
Okay,
up as always.
great seeing you too, Jeff.
All right, take care.
All
See
right,
ya.
bye.
Bye bye. Thanks again to Francis. That was great catching up with him. A giant man who left a giant legacy and a giant impact in our community. Well, that's all we have for today in this 20th anniversary podcast series. Don't forget to tech yourself before you wreck yourself, and we'll see you in the next episode.